What's going on, everybody? Today we have Between Two Bookshelves in kind of a weird format. This is kind of an interesting time to kind of put a timestamp on this video. We are in the middle of the coronavirus craziness of 2020, and everyone is pretty much self-quarantined, and so
not mandated.
Our whole team is working from home right now. And so we're going to do our Between Bookshelves shoot on a recorded Zoom call between Ashley and I, and we're going to have some editing done on this. But we're going to keep, persisting through this whole situation. So
For sure. So up this month, amidst all this craziness, we got to read The One Thing. And I liked it overall. I liked it a lot.
I really liked it too, and in a lot of ways, I think it's super essential.
Yeah.
I feel like I had been doing some of this stuff probably for about 2 years, but if I had read this book 6 years ago, I would have fast-tracked myself like 2 or 3 years for sure.
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing now takes a lot of things that were discussed in The One Thing, the book. And I feel like I had to stumble to learn to start adapting some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that this book is kind of crazy that it panned out this way as far as timing, because it's talking about essentials and kind of boiling down and things like that. And in this time, it's you kind of just have your essentials right now, and focusing on one thing. And there's not much room other than social media on your phone all day for distraction, because you're or at least we are in our homes. And so it was really kind of cool to read this book. Obviously really unfortunate with all of the world events going on right now, but just interesting timing on how it is different to apply now versus 3 months ago.
Couldn't agree more.
It's kind of hard for Zoom calls on this, but we're doing our best, guys. So our first score is going to be for readability.
I thought it was pretty readable. It was concise. I did think in a lot of ways it was really in a lot of ways it was redundant.
I think
for a good reason, I think, but man, if you were reading this, I'm not a reader. If I was reading this, I'd be falling asleep in the middle of chapters for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely had to listen to it. I know that if I was reading this, I'd be nodding off the whole time. For that reason, I give it do we want to do scores right away?
Yeah, we'll just do it as we go.
Okay, so for that reason, I'm going to give it a 0.5.
Ooh.
Yeah, just because it was super redundant. It really drove, and maybe it's because literally The One Thing is the name of the book, and he talks about the one thing, and he frames every question in the one thing. So, I feel like the book could have probably even been shorter, maybe. It was readable, but man, I would have seen myself nodding off like crazy if I was reading this thing.
Interesting to consider. I'd listened to this book as well. And so I kind of forget to imagine what it would be like if I were sitting there reading it. And he gives a lot of examples of questions to ask on one thing. And it's what do I do here? 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 And hearing it, you're yes, 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 yes. But if you were reading it, it's oh my God, this is a lot. So I think that originally, I'm going to keep it with my original score because I think it's still true. I think it is repetitive, but I think, like you were saying, there's a reason to really drive home and to kind of get people in the right mindset and to really start believing it once you're hearing it and it's kind of registering over and over again, or reading it, not hearing it. So I have mine scored at the opposite end of the spectrum at a 1.5 because it's really simple as far as digestibility. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I already locked in my answer,
Yeah.
but it's good. I mean, the 0.5 isn't there to deter. It is good, and I think it looks at it like I think the book was written exactly as like an example for the one thing, where it literally is like, this is the one thing we're talking about,
Yeah.
and so they like flesh out that one thing like crazy. And so maybe that's why I kind of saw it like that. It is readable, and they provide a lot of resources. Uh, but man, I would have fallen asleep for sure.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Okay, so a 0.5 for Attilio and a 1.5 for me. I feel like I need to have like papers with numbers now that we're recording it this way, like 1.5.
I have a notepad though. It's kind of nice that we can do it this way because I can at least throw it in my notepad and
Yeah,
remember my score.
yeah. All right, we have relevance up next. So I think for me, it was super relevant. I have always been like in my heart, and I've not been able to execute it yet, a serial entrepreneur. I just always have all of these ideas, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And actually, Travis told me, we used to work with this guy named Travis, and over the summer, I was always just talking out loud, like, oh my gosh, I think this would be such a great idea. And I think that this would be such a great idea. And he was like hearing all of this stuff. And he's like, Ashley, as your friend, you will not do any of those things. You got to focus on one, or else you'll never get any of them done. And so this book made me think of that, because I think this book is really good for people who get really excited about a lot of things. And I think I told you this, Attilio, before, like, I feel like I'm trying to do so much that I'm like paralyzed in all of these things that I'm trying to do. And so for me, it was really relevant because it's like, whoa, rein it in and like focus on one thing so that you can actually get to the other things, or figure out if it's even necessary. Like, would it make it easier, or will it completely make it like you don't need to do it anymore? So, and that's kind of the whole theme of the book. So for me, I'm at a 1.5 again on the relevance out of 2.
I think that this book is, one, relevant in its field, but 2, relevant to any and everybody. I think every single person that gives a shit about not running around with their head cut off should seriously read this book. Like, I think every leadership or management position person should read this book. It literally, the guy gives you a compass. The guy literally tells you, like, hey, if you want to frame your one thing around purpose, do that. If you want to frame your one thing around, whatever, he literally explains to you a framework to live your life in an effective way that you get exactly what you want done.
Yeah.
And I know that certain tactics that he mentioned, as soon as I employed some of those tactics in my life, I know that I've become way more efficient. Even just simply like time blocking my day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like something he invented, but it is part of like what he talks about. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, a lot of people, like, school will not teach you how to schedule yourself. They'll teach you how to maybe study and put in a ton of work. But he talks about like everything in every aspect of your life. If I could give this relevance a 3, I would, because I think it's like super, super, super ultimate relevant. I think really you can base your whole life using these questions, whether it's your personal life, your professional life. I am super on board with the one thing relevancy here. I'm giving it a 2. Yeah, that I just like it's it's ultimate. It is the ultimate book to like frame your life. And even looking back on it, like, I have some things, like, I've kind of framed my mindset in this way. Like, when I was 23 years old, it was like in the middle of just starting this business, or just starting home digital marketing. And I literally thought of my life as like a sequence of events, and all of a sudden my whole life made sense to me. And literally looking back on it, I feel like it was literally the one thing, like, literally it was just the one thing happened in my brain. And then that's like what I decided to stake my sword, down for.
So how
but
did that make you feel
it's,
better after seeing it? And like, how did that alleviate?
it just like there's stepping stones. Like you take stepping stones to doing things, right? So he talks about asking a question that's big, asking a really big question but specific,
Mm-hmm.
and creating stepping stones along that way. So he talks about, maybe you need to start with a really huge goal. So my really huge goal is I want to help people by deploying science, technology, and innovation. And I'm going to do that by creating a um, personally funded lab. And so if like that's kind of like my big goal is I want to create like a personally funded lab. And so I have little stepping stones that I created like in my brain. Obviously I didn't phrase it like he phrases it. He literally has a framework of phrasing that he does to kind of like organize it. And I probably need to do that for myself, is like pop it into that framework. But literally the way that I saw it was just like little stepping stones. And so
Yeah.
I start here. And then once this is developed, it's going to give me the framework to go here. And to do that, I'll have known like everything I needed to know here will frame me for the next step, and will frame me for that next step and the bigger step.
I think
So
you said something like feeling or believing that you're exactly where you're meant to be right now is super powerful as far as playing into like your productivity, efficiency, and like motivation. Like knowing that you're working to this overall one thing with what you're currently doing is super powerful in kind of your lookout on life. So,
that actually reminded me too. I think that a lot of people frame their life around their profession. And I think what was really interesting is that he took the one thing and he applied it to every aspect of his life. There is a one thing for you personally. There's a one thing for you. He goes into spiritually. He goes into, physically, like body, like, and so I think that even writing out and just having like a framework for that, like professionally, whatever he puts together all in different one thing frameworks,
yeah.
which I think is really powerful. I think I'm going to do that for myself, like this weekend, maybe.
I think that, and this kind of leaks over into our next one of applicability, and we can kind of segue into that. But whenever you say that, it makes me think like, this is such a great like readjustment or a kind of a pick me up. Because you get excited. You're like, ooh, yes, 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 yes. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm helping myself, my future self right now. And so if you're like feeling kind of bogged down or you're not sure what you're going to do, like you may have lost your position. It's non-essential right now, or you're a waiter or something like that. Like, this is a great way to figure out kind of a game plan and like, what am I working towards and how am I doing that right now? Or how can I do that right now, and kind of start brainstorming on problem solving? Because I know a lot of this coronavirus has displaced a lot of people in their careers or their livings. So
Yeah, I really couldn't have said that better, literally. Yeah.
So cool. Applicability. You go for it.
I think it's ultimate applicable. I mean, obviously it can be applicable to every aspect of our lives. What's our fourth grading criteria again?
After this, we're doing value versus expectation.
Value versus expectation, and then butterfly effects. Okay, cool. So yeah, the applicability for this book, I think it's hyper applicable. This kind of goes hand in hand with that relevancy, and yeah, it's a really good segue. I mean, literally the guy applies it to every aspect of his life. And in a lot of ways, after reading this book, I kind of saw myself almost thinking too small or almost thinking too narrow, like, because I know personally I combine my personal and professional life in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I see professional success, I see personal success in a lot of ways. But he kind of fleshes it out and kind of expands it into like this multi-tier system, to make it so that we're not juggling, we're not just running around like always working towards something, but we don't know exactly what. So I think it's super applicable. I think the hardest part about it is just picking it up and getting started, like doing it. I think actually doing it
Yeah.
and applying it. So he provides so much information. I'm kind of torn between a 2 or a 1.5 here. I feel like in my gut it's a 2 for sure, but part of me says that um, part of me thinks that um, it might be too big for some people. I don't know, like it might be too good. Like it might be too
People just can't fathom.
yeah, like I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm gonna give it a 2. I don't think that that should affect its score. Um, on applicability, yeah.
Cool.
I think so.
I'm going to give it a 2 also, and here's why. Because I think even if it is too big for somebody to apply to their life, like just drop it on there and apply it everywhere, I think it's really easy to apply it, even though this is maybe not his hope, but to apply it small and like, okay, this is working, step up, step up, step up, and then you have it over everything eventually once you create that habit. And they talk about habits a lot. And so I think that this is something easy to turn into a habit if you have the motivation to do so. And then secondly, why I also rated a 2 out of 2 is because they have so many like graphics and helpful things on the onething.com. And so that kind of goes beyond normal books. I feel like not a lot of books have that where you can visualize it, where it's not like a picture book, but it has resources to kind of help you implement things beyond just reading the book. So I think that that's why I give it a 2.
I agree. Yeah. I actually just pulled up the onething.com right before we started recording here, because he talks about it a lot in the book, talks about like all the graphs he provides. Super interesting. I mean,
A lot of
there's
examples.
yeah, a lot of examples. This literally could be the framework for someone's life, like literally.
Kind of crazy.
It is crazy, right? And some people are like, and you know what's really cool too, and it was just like one small little snippet in there. I think it was at the end, but he talks about like you organize your purpose. But here's the thing: if you're on a track and you don't like it, you can always just pick up and change tracks. So I think it was like a small little thing. So it's not like you're not like locking your life in stone by taking this method on. Um, which I think is really cool. It's just maybe you need to, pivot in a different direction to make yourself feel like you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
People change over time. I think that's really cool too.
Cool. So number 4, our 4th ranking tier, value versus expectation. So this one is my lowest score. And it's maybe not really fair, but I feel like it's such a big book, important book, and I've not heard a whole lot about it. And so I didn't have a whole lot to measure it up to as far as expectation. And so I'm wondering, like, why is this book not have like this huge following? Why is this book not like, why have I not heard of it before? And maybe that's on me. Maybe I'm not well networked and flying out with the right people. But so for that reason, I think it's better than any like just decimal point. So I give it a 1 flat in the middle because I think it's really amazing and it did exceed my expectations. But my worry is that I didn't have any. So that's why I give it a 1.
Okay. Actually, that's very fair, I think. I know that I've heard of it in spheres, and I'm pretty well networked with people um, who are like other agency owners and other marketing people and other like leadership people, and I've heard it come up every once in a while. And I wonder if it's just like a foundational book. I wonder if it's like super foundational because I know a lot of leaders and deploy a lot of these tactics already, especially if they're effective. And so I think a lot of people, in a lot of ways, who we look up to or who are maybe mentors in this space are actually have actually already read this. And so they're just like picking and choosing pieces and redistributing that information to, the people who are following them. So I'm wondering if that's what's happening. Part of me wants to give it a 1. But I just think that there's so much value. And I think I was the one who brought it up to read, right? I think I was the one who recommended this book. That we go ahead and put it in, because I've heard things about it. And so actually I am going to give it a 1. I am going to give it a 1 just because, and it kind of sucks that this is the way that math works out, but when you divide 1 by 1, you get a 1 kind of vibe. So yeah, the value is just really, really good. I didn't have too much to expect. Maybe actually I'll give it that 1.5 then. Yeah. Because I didn't really have too much to expect from it. I knew that it was like good and foundational. But really, it's really strong stuff. So 1.5 for me. Yeah.
I feel like I'm like need to defend my 1. I feel guilty about it. I just think like, even if it is foundational, like even if so your network is obviously different than mine. The agency owners and everything like that. But like, I feel like to our point earlier, like this is for anybody in any sphere. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm like, I feel like I should know about it from someone.
Yeah, I feel like this should be like what they teach you like freshman year of high school. Like how do you focus? Yeah. Like how do you frame yourself? Like why isn't this like why is time management, why is discovering your purpose not like first and foremost in like even our education system?
Because you have to learn the preamble. That's why.
I know they're all trying to teach you how to do algebra, which I think is super important, by the way. Or like pre-cal or something like that, which I think is super important. But this is also super important.
Yeah. But it's then kind of like this is how you figure out like, because everyone's why do I need to learn this? I'm never gonna apply this in my life, and then this kind of gives you the roadmap, because high schoolers don't really know. Like some people might, but anyway. All right.
High schoolers might not even have the passion for it. Sure. Yeah. Like I'm kind of thinking. Like I remember I always learned best, and I can't remember what I was watching. Oh, it was like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something like that, because I didn't know this verbiage, but they were talking about how like some people learn better if they know how to apply it to something else, or if they actually know how to apply it. And I guess it's called subjective learning. This is off of a TV show, so don't like hold me to this, but I'm very much a subjective learner, if that's what it actually is, where if I know how to apply the thing I'm learning, or if I know why I would need it, I learn it very quickly, very easily. But if I don't understand why I would ever need it, so in a lot of ways,
that makes sense.
I don't know. This kind of like fits into that, but
like for a while, if you guys have watched any of these other videos, I think I've talked about it once before. It's really interesting to think back on now. Obviously, retrospect is nice and annoying, but for the longest time, I thought I was going to go to dental school and be a dentist and yada yada yada. And so like I was having such a hard time figuring out why I didn't have as much of a passion for science as I should have. And kind of goes back to your subjective learning. Like if that was really my one thing, that should have motivated me enough, because I know I'm going to need this in order to accomplish these goals. And like there was just like this barrier, and no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't working, because that's not my one thing. So it's kind of interesting.
That makes a lot of sense. So. I wish that I had this earlier. I really do. And I wish that I had taken it seriously. I don't know how to instill this into someone earlier or make them care about doing this. Because that's the other thing too. I don't know. Some people really just don't care about being efficient. Some people just want to work and work and work and not do, like just run themselves into a wall. Some people like that, or just want to do that. They feel like they're being productive by juggling 40 things. Like some people literally like that. this is not for you if you like that. This is not for you if you don't think that there's another way, or you wouldn't be interested in trying something new, you know?
Yeah. I think it kind of boils down to also, not necessarily boils down to, but whenever you started talking, it made me think about like the type of people in the world. And usually there's like two categories. There's the planner, and there's just kind of like the fly by the seat of your pants person. And I'm usually the planner. And so this book is great for me because it's a lot of planning, but it's great for the fly by the seat of your pants person because it's specific, but it's not tied down to something. Like you have this one goal, but it's super ambiguous and dynamic on how you can achieve it. But for the planner, it's nice because, like Attilio was saying, you have this roadmap you can create and you can kind of tick, 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 check off your boxes. But for the other one, it's still flexible.
We got butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect.
Okay.
All right. You want to go?
Yes, I think I'll go first on this one. So the butterfly effect for us is how excited we are to take what we learned or what we got from this book and actually like apply it to do something with it. And the fact that I've already known a lot of the tactics in here, and I try to actually already do most of these things, and I still want to apply it, and I still want to do more with it, tells me right away that this has a high BE index, butterfly effect index. So, yeah, I mean, so I'm ready to rock and roll. I know that I'm already doing things. And I know that I've already seen improvements in my life from doing just small things from the book. And I want to stretch it out like fully. I'm going like really deep and going across the board, like horizontal and vertical with it. So I'm going to try to like flesh out some of this stuff maybe this weekend.
Cool.
From the book's framework. So like literally, if that's not a 2, I don't know what is. So like I'm pretty pumped to like align myself. I know that I've had a vision, and I actually want to. I think like honestly, I want to somehow put this book into some kind of like question framework and start using it actually more professionally inside of our organization.
Yeah.
I think it may even help us like, hey, what is the one thing that we need to accomplish as far as like the product? What is the one thing that we're going to do to affect our purpose? Like, how are we pursuing mastery? How are we So I think there's a lot of things that you can. What's up?
I said, like, even like in job roles, like what is the one thing that this position needs to accomplish?
The most important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to align job roles. I think that's going to align the organization. I think so. Like I'm using this all over the place. I mean, needless to say, how I'm going to apply it, this is going to be like, I think, a compound effect. And I think I just need to stick to this like over time. And I need to keep reminding myself that it exists so that I keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think I need to like print out maybe a huge poster or something and put it up somewhere. But it's a 2. It's a 2 for me.
I think for me, the butterfly effect is under a 2. I have it at a 1.5. I wrote them down beforehand, so I don't have to do math after. But the reason that I think that is because it was exciting. So this is almost a perfect score, but it's not a perfect score for me, just because I feel like I've been excited more by other books. So I feel like I couldn't give it a perfect score if it hasn't gotten me quite to the level that I've gotten to for different books. And so that's why I have it at a 1.5. But I will say, along with Attilio, I have it on my schedule today to apply the one thing mindset. So like I'm gonna use it, and it does excite me, but it's just not a 2. So I have it at 1.5.
Interesting. I think the biggest difference there is maybe, and I know that when like, how much were you using like time blocking before you started working with Hone? 0. And how much?
I mean, like I had appointments.
Yeah.
That's not the same.
And I guess how well were you maybe aligning your goals, I guess, with what you do sort of day to day before hone?
I mean, probably average.
Okay.
I definitely was not to my full potential at all. So maybe even below average. But I did have goals. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
after I figured out I wasn't going to go to dental school, I have this business degree, science background, worked there and here and what, but I never had a full-time job because I was always in school. So it was kind of weird. But I did know I wanted to do one of two things because my big thing was I wanted to own my own businesses. And I had a couple businesses in mind. And so my one thing was either you're just going to have a near minimum wage job and you're going to infiltrate the kind of businesses you want to work at so you can learn, or you're going to work at the innovation hub. And I didn't know that home existed at the workplace I wanted to work. Or you're going to work at this innovation hub where all of these startup companies and entrepreneurs and small businesses work, so you can be surrounded by the right type of people. And those are my two things. Scouts honor or whatever you do for that. So I did have those goals and I hit the target because it was kind of like the best of both worlds. But anyways, yeah, so that's where I'm at.
And so I think, and the reason why I was asking those is I've been using some of these tactics for like compounding is probably across about 3 years, 3.5 years maybe ish. But more importantly, some of the more like some of the actual tactics that he like calls out, I've been only using for about 1.5 years. And maybe I just saw myself a lot in the book and I saw how I could improve myself. Like I think what I did is I saw how I was kind of applying some of the book and how it's like like this is the fleshed out version of applying what I was already doing. And so I think that's why I saw a lot of I think that's why I got really excited.
Yeah. Or like you saw that gap that you could be fulfilling.
Yeah, and it's like, man, I could have fast forwarded probably 3.5 years. Probably could have literally like 2x, 3x my 3.5 years. But then to me, that also tells me that, oh wow, I struggled for so long, and I know that I built up to half of what this book is doing, and now I know that I'm at my peak so far. Like I'm at the highest that I've been yet, and so I know that I'm moving in a good direction, which to me excites me about, the X amount more now that I have a full strategy that I can apply. I think that's where my butterfly effect came from.
I think I'm still building up. And so I don't think I've had that like down here yet. I think I am down here. So I don't have like that much to look back on, kind of like what you were saying. And so I am 23 now. So maybe I get to fast track and skip all the stuff that you've gone through.
You're about to be a force.
Cool. Okay. So let's tally in total. I have my score here because I did it ahead of time.
My score is a solid 8.
Okay. Mine's a 7.5. So we're pretty much about the same.
That's pretty good though. An 8? Like do we have a book that was higher than that? I think we maybe
have Delivering Happiness by Tony Say was higher, but that's because mine was like an 8.5 and yours maybe was a 9 or something. I don't remember exactly, but that's because we didn't want to rate it a 10. But that book we already like had near and dear to our hearts, and it has a special place for us. And this one was kind of newbie, and he did some work. He did good.
Yeah, did some work.
Cool. Well, awesome, guys. Any closing thoughts?
I would super recommend this. Super recommend it. If you're looking for a book to read to frame yourself, whether you're just getting started or you've been in the game for a long time, I think it's absolutely foundational.
Yeah. I second that opinion. Yeah, I think it's a great book. I think that I might even go back and re-listen to it because I always listen to it at like a 1.5 or 2 speed. And so I might go back and listen to it a little bit slower. so that I can maybe get a little bit more of the impact that our scores kind of show differences in. Maybe that's part of
I
it.
listen to it on 2, so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
But I also just like to listen to things fast. Like maybe that's why I like to listen. Is maybe I just read slow or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I read pretty fast. I have an above average reading level, but for sure I have to. There's no way.
That's funny. All right, cool, guys. Well, we're really happy that if you tuned in, that you did. I know that a lot of people are all online right now, and so that's kind of everyone's life at the moment. But we hope that everyone is staying safe and being smart and staying in. It's definitely been hard for us, but easier than most, just because most of our stuff is on digital. But if you guys need help with anything, this is a time for us to kind of reach out and be supportive of each other. So I know that I can speak for Attilio and the rest of our team that beyond Between Two Bookshelves, while it's something really fun and exciting that we get to do to kind of better ourselves, if you guys need some help, reach out to us and we'd love to see if we can do something to give you some support. So
Yeah. I think I'm putting together a workshop too. If you're looking at this in real time, I'm putting together a workshop right now on my Facebook if you're friends with me. So if you're taking a look at this, I'm putting together a workshop on how to put together digital products and or pre-selling your products or services. I don't know how relevant this is going to be in the future, but that's what I'm doing right now. What's our book for next time, by the way?
Ooh, let me take a look. 1 second, please hold.
Too bad we don't have some merch to hawk. We do.
We have Blitz Scaling.
Blitz Scaling is our
Blitz
next
Scaling.
book. Okay, Blitz Scaling.
Chris Ye.
It'll be here. Blitz Scaling.
Blitz Scaling, yeah, right there. So that book will be interesting too. Maybe we can talk about blitz scaling your digital product that Attilio just helped you launch.
Yeah, all right.
All right, guys. You guys stay safe and be healthy. We'll catch you next time on Between Two Bookshelves.